Guidance. I will be with you in a minute as soon as we get Instagram caught up and running here. It likes to lollygag. There we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Tuesday's Early Morning Intuitive Guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum here with some words of wisdom to start your day off well. And I think given that we are approaching return to school, this is a perfect topic for this time of year, especially academically and with regard to sports. Good morning, Gwen. Welcome. You're the first one popping on today. Glad you are here. And as parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever role we have with younger people, and also if we were one of those younger people, good morning, Beth, welcome. And I certainly fell into this trap. Good morning, Barb. Welcome. Believing that innate ability is all that matters and that you can't cultivate innate ability. It just is what it is. It's a fixed thing. As opposed to, we always have the ability to improve, which is the growth mindset. So, yes, we are going to be talking about Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, again. And I just want to keep drilling this stuff into all of us because even when we know this stuff intellectually, we've done the way we've done it for so long. Good morning, Nancy. Welcome. Glad you're here. We've done it the way we've done it for so long that we fall back into that all the time. And certainly in professional sports, we see this where we're all about the innate ability. Right now, there is a pitcher for the Brewers that everybody is falling all over themselves. And it seems as though he doesn't get caught up in the crap, that he's kind of doing his thing and not focusing on all of this praise for innate ability, which can set us up. So we'll read about that. Good morning, Mel. Glad you are here. Beautiful day in the UP. Fabulous. Yeah, I think we're only supposed to get to 80 today. And we might finally get some rain. It is so crispy that, yes, any rain would be very welcome. So let us begin. I went to the Y yesterday. So again, everything is sore. So we'll tap, but I'm going to tap lightly because everything's sore. So let's take a breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Welcome to those of you whose names aren't rolling. Glad to have you here. In through the nose, out through the mouth, settling into right here, right now. Just focusing here for a few moments, just to benefit yourself. Breathing in, breathing out. Grounding through the soles of your feet and the base of your spine into Mother Earth. Every exhale, sending your roots down deeper. Breathing in, breathing out. And one more for good measure. Breathing in and hold at the top. And out. Yeah, there's a lot of areas that need rain. And even a day of rain is probably not going to be enough to counter all of this dryness. But whatever we get, we'll accept with great gratitude. So for those of you who have acquired the book, this is the part where I want to talk about the dangers of praise. The dangers of praise and of positive labels. Oh, he's so gifted. She's so talented. Blah, blah, blah. All the things. They have such a high IQ, all that crap, right? Because it sets people up to fail. Surprise, right? I think most of us think, well, if we praise somebody, they're going to do better. Not necessarily, and not if that person already has a tendency toward a fixed mindset. So let me read and we'll see where we go with it. And what I want you to realize is when we get to the bottom of this first page, basically they're saying we can take a student, we can take a human, and we can, through our words to them, especially if they value our opinion, change them from someone who's performing very well to someone who gives up very easily. Let's see how that happens. The danger of praise and positive labels. If people have such potential to achieve, how can they gain faith in their potential? How can we give them the confidence they need to go for it? How about praising their ability in order to convey that they have what it takes? In fact, more than 80% of parents told us it was necessary to praise children's ability so as to foster their confidence and achievement. You know, it makes a lot of sense. But then we began to worry. Been all over looking for me. Well, you found me. This is good. Glad you are here, Joniel. Then we began to worry. We thought about how people with the fixed mindset already focus too much on their ability. Is it high enough? Will it be good enough? Won't praising people's ability focus them on it even more? Wouldn't it be like telling them that's what we value, and even worse, that we can read their deep underlying ability from their performance? That we know just how much they can do by watching how they do. So there's no room for improvement. There's no room for improvement or trying or anything. Isn't that teaching them the fixed mindset? Yes. Adam Gettle has been called the crown prince and savior of musical theater. He is the grandson of Richard Rodgers, the man who wrote the music to such classics as Oklahoma and Carousel. Gettle's mother gushes about her son's genius. So does everybody else. The talent is there and it's major, raved a review in the New York Times. The question is whether this kind of praise encourages people. What's great about research is that you can ask these kinds of questions and then go get the answers. So we conducted studies with hundreds of students, mostly early adolescents. We first gave each student a set of 10 fairly difficult problems from a nonverbal IQ test. They mostly did pretty well on these, and when they finished, we praised them. We praised some of the students for their ability. They were told, wow, you got 8 right. That's a really good score. You must be smart at this. They were in the Adam Gettle, you're so talented position. We praised other students for their efforts. Wow, you got 8 right. That's a really good score. You must have worked really hard on this. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you're here. Welcome. So the difference is you're really talented at this or you worked really hard on this. They were not made to feel that they had some special gift. They were praised for doing what it takes to succeed. Both groups were exactly equal to begin with. But right after the praise, they began to differ. As we feared, the ability praise pushed students right into a fixed mindset, and they showed all the signs of it too. When we gave them a choice, they rejected a challenging new task that they could learn from. They didn't want to do anything that could expose their flaws and call into question their talent. So they're playing it safe now. They're not taking risks. When Adam Gettle was 13, he was all set to star in a Metropolitan Opera broadcast and TV movie of Amal and the Night Visitors. He bowed out, saying that his voice had broken. I kind of faked that my voice was changing. I didn't want to handle the pressure. Let's change that. He couldn't handle the pressure because he had been set up in such a way that he was going to back out. In contrast, when students were praised for effort, 90% of them went for the challenging new task that they could learn from. Think of the implications here for teaching. Think of the implications here for coaching. Think of the implications here for mentoring. Think of the implications here for being a supervisor, a manager. Holy cow. Holy cow. And I think we can see the direct results of this in the US. We have, excuse me, gone nuts on praising people for their ability, and a lot of them never actually showed the full range of their abilities because they were so locked in that fixed mindset. Okay. Then we gave students some hard new problems, which they didn't do so well on. The ability kids now thought that they were not smart at all. If success had meant that they were intelligent, then less than success meant that they were deficient. Gettle echoes this. In my family, to be good is to fail. To be very good is to fail. The only thing not a failure is to be great. The effort kids simply saw the difficulty meant apply more effort or try new strategies. They didn't see it as a failure and they didn't think it reflected on their intellect. They saw it as a challenge and they were willing to take that challenge. What about students' enjoyment of the problems? We see this all the time. I was a classic example of this. After the success, everyone loved the problems. But after the difficult problems, the ability kids said it wasn't fun anymore. It can't be fun when your claim to fame, your special talent, is in jeopardy, right? Here's Adam Gettle. I wish I could just have fun and relax and not have the responsibility of that potential to be some kind of great man. As with the kids in our study, the burden of talent was killing his enjoyment. The effort praised kids still loved the problems, and many of them said that the hard problems were the most fun. Absolutely, we need to be careful what we say to our grandkids. We must praise them for the hard work. We must praise them for trying again. We must praise them for getting up again. Fall down 7, get up 8. Fabulous. Fabulous. The ability kids are just going to focus on, well, they'll never get to falling down 7. They'll fall down once, perhaps, and they're leaving the field. They're done. Okay. When we looked at the students' performance, so we then looked at the students' performance. After the experience with difficulty, the performance of the ability praised students plummeted, right? They're not going to keep trying. Even when we gave them some of the easier problems next, they're not willing to take a shot at it. Losing faith in their ability, they were doing worse than when they started. The effort kids showed better and better performance. They had used the hard problems to sharpen their skills so that when they returned to the easier ones, they were way ahead. Again, think about the tremendous implications for children here. How many people do you know as an adult who will, 50 years later say that they were told you were good for nothing, you're never going to amount to anything, blah, 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 by some parent, grandparent, whoever. Good morning, Debbie. Glad you're here. Who wanted to goose them forward. I have a friend who, when she and her friend were walking around the track instead of running, the coach told them they were never going to amount to anything. And we are, 50 years later, she still remembers that. And she still holds a grudge. Granted, there are the 1 or 2 kids who might already be in a growth mindset, who might already have a ton of ability, who, when a coach says that to them, goes, I'll show you. But the vast majority of kids, vast majority of adults as well, will take those words and believe them and live down to that expectation. They don't view that as a challenge to rise to. They view it as an assessment of their ability, who they are as a human being. Okay, let's see what else we got. So since this was a kind of IQ test, you might say that praising ability lowered students' IQs and that praising their effort raised them. So let's go back to Adam Gettle. He was not thriving. He was riddled with obsessive compulsive tics and bitten, bleeding fingers. Spend a minute with him, it only takes one, and a picture of the terror behind the tics begins to emerge, says an interviewer. Gettle, who also fought serious recurrent drug problems, Rather than empowering him, his gift had filled him with fear and doubt. Rather than fulfilling his talent, this brilliant composer has spent most of his life running from it. One thing is hopeful, his recognition that he has his own life course to follow that is not dictated by other people and their view of his talent. One night he had a dream about his grandfather, Richard Rogers, who wrote these beautiful scores, right? I was walking him to an elevator. I asked him if I was any good, and he said rather kindly, "You have your own voice." That was part of what we were talking about yesterday. The women who walk away from the life they built after when they're 60. Part of what happens there, again, it's that if you have that mindset of what do other people think? Is my house clean enough? Have I been a good enough wife, a good enough mother, a good enough grandmother, all the things, how that's going to impact stuff, right? So now we're asking a question. Is that voice, his own voice, finally emerging? For the score of The Light in the Piazza, an intensely romantic musical, Gettle won the 2005 Tony Award. Will he take it as praise for talent or praise for effort? I hope it's the latter. There was one more finding in our study that was striking and depressing at the same time. We said to each student, we're going to go to other schools, and I bet the kids in those schools would like to know about the problems. So we gave them a page to write out their thoughts, but we also left them a space to write the scores they received on the problems. Would you believe that almost 40% of the ability praise students lied about their scores? They can't tolerate that. They can't cope with how, in their mind, poorly they did. They lied about their scores, and always in one direction. In the fixed mindset, imperfections are shameful, especially if you're talented. So they lied them away. 40% of them lied about their scores. What's so alarming is that we took ordinary children and made them into liars simply by telling them they were smart. Right after I wrote these paragraphs, I met with a young man who tutors students for their college board exams. He had come to consult with me about one of his students. This student takes practice tests and then lies to him about her scores. He is supposed to tutor her on what she doesn't know, but she can't tell him the truth about what she doesn't know. And she's paying money for this. So telling children they're smart in the end made them feel dumber and act dumber, but claim they were smarter. I don't think that this is what we're aiming for when we put positive labels, gifted, talented, brilliant, on people. We don't mean to rob them of their zest for challenge and their recipes for success, but that's the danger. Here's a letter from a man who'd read some of my work. Dear Dr. Dweck, it was painful to read your chapter as I recognized myself therein. As a child, I was a member of the Gifted Child Society and continually praised for my intelligence. Now, after a lifetime of not living up to my potential, I'm 49, I'm learning to apply myself to a task and also to see failure not as a sign of stupidity, but as a lack of experience and skill. Your chapter helped me see myself in a new light. Seth Abrams. This is the danger of positive labels. There are alternatives, and I will return to them later in the chapters on parents, teachers, and coaches. So we're also going to talk, maybe tomorrow, we'll see what comes up, about the negative labels and how that impacts things. But I very much want every one of us, myself included, to take away that the rule of thumb here is do not praise intelligence, praise effort. You did a great job on this. You had trouble with that one, but you kept going. You asked questions. You did a great job on this. Talk about the things that they did that were recovery strategies. Teach them recovery strategies. And if you find that there's a child who's resistant to learning the recovery strategies, set off to change that child's mindset from fixed to that more open, learning, growth-oriented mindset. You're capable of this. You can do this. I know you've got a lot of things that you can figure out here, but you got to have some tools. With mental health. Mental health is one of those. I've had many people who've said, I have everything. I don't know why I'm so depressed. I choke every time. I can do all this stuff really great on my own, but I choke. I get so anxious. I have this anticipatory anxiety that just kicks my butt. Both of those, the depression and the anxiety, you can talk about effort. Talk about the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise just keeps going. Yeah, we all think the hare is all that in a bag of chips, but not really. Not really. We must change our individual mindsets. We must change our mindsets at, yes, exactly. Exactly. And my sister just gave a talk at her church about our faith upbringing, which was Catholic, and she's now a member of the UU Church, Unitarian Universalist Church, and talked about this kind of stuff. How in church that particular priest was very focused on, knowing how to do stuff, and that in what we called catechism, in other places it's called Sunday school, whatever, one of the teachers that she had, who was a nun, actually punished a child for asking a question, made that kid go sit in the hall. So my sister was like, oh yeah, hell no, not asking any questions, forget it. Allow questions. There are no stupid questions. Support effort. Applaud them for trying. Challenge them. That's where, where I often see this too. Your first ever philosophy class. When you're in junior college and you take your first ever philosophy class and they start messing with your head about all the stuff that you think you know, philosophy is one of those classes that can open up the world for people. Can open up the world for people. And many people, especially those of the fixed mindset, struggle with philosophy classes. I was one of those people. What do you mean that wall's not there? Of course that wall's there, etc., etc. But I was willing to hang in there with it and try to figure out what this fool was talking about. And eventually it began to get, yeah, I should challenge this thinking. I should ask these questions. Why do I believe this? What are the factors that go into my believing this, etc., etc., etc. But again, my hope is what you take away from here is praise people for effort, praise people for sticking with it, praise people for trying again and again and again. Don't praise them for intelligence. Don't praise them for intelligence or gifted and talented. Use different words. Use different words. Don't lock them in. All right? So that's our thoughts for today. I'd love to have you go and talk to someone about this. There are 11 of you watching me right now. There will be a couple hundred by the time this is all said and done. If everybody went and talked to one more person about this, we could start a ripple that could change things in terms of how kids view going back to school, how kids view putting forth effort when they're struggling with something. Let's do this. See you again tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.